I was at the grocery store the other day trying to find some food, right? Sometimes it's hard to find actual real food at the grocery store. So I'm going through and I just had this thought in my mind. If we were to look at this grocery store from the viewpoint of what percent of all these foods have sugar, okay, pretty high. Is sugar really the bad thing? Or is it maybe the refined carbs or the starches? Or maybe it's the seed oils, right? High in omega-6. So today I'm going to kind of discuss different types of foods in relationship to how bad they are, because a lot of times you are in certain environments like grocery stores and you have to eat something. So what would be better than others, right? Kind of focus more on differentiating sugar versus these omega-6 seed oils, okay? So before I begin, I just want to have you comment down in the section below. What do you think is worse, consuming sugar or seed oils? And I'm talking about the soy oil, the corn oil, the canola, the cottonseed oil, the safflower, the sunflower oil. I've done a ton of videos on sugar and how bad it is and it creates diabetes, etc., etc. And I've also done quite a few videos on omega-6 fatty acids and the importance of getting your ratios of omega-6 to omega-3. Ideally, I mean, like 1-to-1 would be awesome if you can go for that. On average, we're consuming way too much omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids. I think it's like we're consuming like 25 times more omega-6 than we should in our diets. Yes, people will say that we need them, they're essential, but we don't need as many, and we definitely don't need the type of omega-6 that we're being fed. But an average person, as far as looking at the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, like a 15-to-1 ratio. Okay, that's the average person in the US. Now that's very, very conservative. It's probably a lot more, like 30, 40, 50, 60, I don't know, but it's high. It needs to be 1-to-1. These oils, these fats, okay, they're called polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're kind of like building blocks for body tissue, especially structural things in our cell membranes, in our brain. And when we have this imbalance, we get all sorts of problems, especially in the cell membrane. When you consume sugar, and I'm talking about refined sugar, like from candy, added sugars and ice cream and things like that, they also create some bad effects. They don't tend to go lodge into our cells like the oils, but they combine with proteins and they kind of alter the protein, and that's called glycation, which it makes this protein unavailable. That extra sugar doesn't tend to accumulate other than being converted to fat like the omega-6 fatty acids do. So if we just compare one aspect of accumulation in the body, and we take a look at omega-6 or seed oils, industrial seed oils, versus sugar, industrial seed oils will accumulate in your tissues. They make up your tissues for a very long time, like 600 days. Okay, so that's the problem. They're not water soluble like sugar is. They tend to accumulate in the tissues. Now, sugar can be burned off. Okay, when you exercise, you can burn off this excess sugar. Now, there's some other points that I want to mention. Do these refined oils deplete you of certain nutrients? They can, especially the fat-soluble nutrients. Okay, but what about the sugar? Does that deplete any nutrients? I'm talking about refined sugar. The answer is a big fat yes, it does. It depletes your B1 big time. The more sugar you consume, the more B1 that is needed to metabolize that sugar. If you're eating a lot of sugar, you're going to deplete your B1. You're going to have a lot of symptoms of a B1 deficiency. So we have B1, calcium, magnesium. We have deficiency of zinc, vitamin C. The chemistry of vitamin C versus glucose is very, very similar. So if you're consuming glucose or sugar, same time with vitamin C, it's going to compete. So the body's going to pull in the sugar and avoid pulling in the vitamin C. And so if a person consumes a lot of sugar, especially through the day, they have a lot of gum problems, right? They're going to start showing signs of kind of a subclinical scurvy, which is you have bleeding gums, fatigue. They brush their teeth and the toothbrush is red because it's destroying the vascularization and making the blood vessels very, very weak, like the connective tissue. That's not happening just in your gums. It's happening throughout the entire body. So refined sugar does deplete vitamins. But what about fruit? Okay. Well, fruit has sugar, but it also has these vitamins. So chances are it's not going to deplete any of these vitamins. So that's a plus point for fruit. So if you were to evaluate the sugar in fruit versus refined sugar, of course, refined sugar is much, much worse. Plus, the complications or the side effects from this refined sugar can be countered or lessened greatly if you have phytonutrients. So this is why fruit is much, much better than refined sugar, because it has all the phytonutrients that can protect you from the complications from diabetes. It's very highly likely that you would ever develop diabetes from consuming fruit. The reason I don't recommend consuming fruit is just that there's too much sugar and it bumps you out of ketosis. But anytime you're eating anything in the whole form, okay, there's protective factors in this whole form, whether it's a starch or a fruit. Now, with these seed oils, wow, you're getting a highly refined, overprocessed part of a seed, which is the oil part, but nothing else. You're not getting the phytonutrients to protect you against the oxidation that oil is going to create on your body, especially with your like LDL. You're going to oxidate your LDL. That's going to affect the inside of the arteries. I mean, it's going to create inflammation. It's going to pull things out of your body. And also, how do you think that they extract this oil from the seed? They use a solvent. It's called hexane. Okay. Is it possible that some of that hexane is still in that oil, or does it magically go away? So you take this seed and you turn it into this oil with all these things that you do to it, and then you put it on the shelves as vegetable oil, right? Sounds really healthy, but it's really not. But the amount of this oil in our diet is just tremendous. And unfortunately, all this came from this huge push to replace the saturated fats with the unsaturated fats, okay? That's really why it's in our grocery stores in abundance, right? And you might say, well, we don't consume any of that oil. But what about your salad dressing? Have you ever tried to buy salad dressing without some of these seed oils? What about in hummus, right? They're supposed to put olive oil in hummus. They replaced it with soy oil and canola oil and even safflower oil or sunflower oil. So we have all the condiments, mayonnaise, especially soy oil. We have the salad dressings, and then we have the restaurant foods, right? I mean, wow. I mean, try to get some food they don't use these seed oils to fry something or cook something with at a restaurant, especially if you consume anything fried at the restaurant. Those appetizers loaded with omega-6 fatty acids, right? You might not make the connection, but I mean, just see how you feel the day after you go to a restaurant, right? You might feel bloated, kind of thick in your gut, probably because of those oils.